Take care of me, triplets at home I see. Two girls and a boy, that makes three. Take care of me, triplets, they're so much fun, cause you're caring for three instead of just one.
What's better than one Terror of the Peaks? 3 Terrors of the Peaks. That's right. Trip Lukka. We're going big. We're bringing Lukka in, but we're doing it a little differently. Let's dive in. Alright, so this is Trip Lukka. Now, obviously the core of the deck revolves around Lukka Coppercoat Outcast. It's a planeswalker that comes down for 5 mana, has 5 loyalty. And the main thing you can do with Lukka is you can downtick for 2 loyalty to exile a creature you control, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal another creature that costs more, and then you put that creature into play. Now, most people will utilize this card with token creation, so that you're using non-creature cards to generate small creatures, and then you're sacking those to Lukka to grab the only other creatures in the deck, which would be really, really big. But I don't see many people utilizing this with a deck full of creatures, because it's really hard to hit specific targets. But what we're doing here is we're using all 3-drop creatures, which is why the deck's called Trip Lukka. The reason we're doing this, the big reason, is because now Lukka's uptick ability actually becomes useful. +1 loyalty, exile the top 3 cards of your deck. Any creature cards exiled this way may be played for as long as Lukka's in play. Now, typically this gets overlooked and unused, but in a deck like this, where our creature count is really high, we can constantly uptick and generate a ton of value off additional creatures to play. Now, how do we still make this work with the downtick in a reasonable way? We keep all of our creatures costing 3, but a bunch of them do things at 2 mana so that we're not missing our second turn plays. And the best way to do that is we've got 4 Brazen Borrowers and 4 Bonecrusher Giants. This makes it so that we have adventures we can play on turn 2 that are removal. We can either play Stomp to kill something that has 2 toughness or less, or we can play Petty Theft off the Brazen Borrower to bounce something that the opponent has in play. This leads directly into us playing either of those creatures on turn 3 or one of our other 3-drops, so that we can then later down the line sacrifice those 3-drops to Lukka to search for our big threats. To round out our creature base at 3, we have 3 copies of Barrin. Barrin's great because when it comes down, it's removal, but it can also be used to return our own adventure creatures to our hand, draw a card off of it, because whenever you return one of your own creatures to your hand with Barrin, you get to draw a card, and then also replay the adventure side of that creature, and then replay the creature at a later time. So there's a lot of value to be gained with Barrin, whether you're using it on the opponent or on your own creatures. It's very versatile, and it's absolutely an auto include at 3. And then we're also running 2 copies of Alirios. Now, this seems a little techie. Not many people would do this, but Alirios is interesting because when Alirios comes into play, it generates 2 creatures. And that brings us to one of our big payoffs. We're playing Terror of the Peaks. Now, Terror of the Peaks is going to make it so that whenever one of our creatures comes into play, we get to deal as much damage equal to that creature's power to any target. So with something like Alirios, it's absolutely bonkers because Alirios comes into play as 2 creatures, and now we get to ping something for 3 and ping something else for 2, or we can do 3 and 2 to the same creature to kill something that's got 5 toughness, or we could take out a 3-drop and then also do a couple damage to their head. There's a lot of versatility, so dropping an Alirios after you have a Terror on the field can be really, really beneficial. It just adds a ton of extra incremental value there. And then, again, if you play it before you have a Terror in play, it gives you something to sacrifice to Lukka. It leaves behind a token after you sacrifice it. So there's just a lot of ways that Alirios synergizes with what we're trying to do in the deck. Moving on. So we've got the 4 copies of Terror of the Peaks. Or rather, we're running 3 at this point, because we can use Lukka to search for it. But we're also running one copy of Thassa Deep Dwelling. Now, we don't want more than one copy here because it's legendary. So when we downtick with Lukka, if we already have a Thassa in play and then we find another Thassa, it's really, really bad. We'd have to sacrifice one of them and have a ton of card disadvantage. But just the one goes a long way. If we get Thassa onto the board, we can blink the Barrin to keep returning things to their hand. We can blink the Alirios to keep generating tokens. You know, we can also re-trigger the Terror of the Peaks with whatever else we blink and do even more damage to things. So Thassa is really, really nuts in that respect. We're also running a removal suite here of 3 Akroan Wars and 3 Mythos of Vadroks. That's giving us 6 essentially board sweepers. Now, neither of these cards are actual board sweepers, but they function similarly. And it's really, really interesting. The Mythos in particular, we do actually have a splash of white in the form of Raugrin Triomes. So it is possible to get off the Mythos while paying the white-blue. And if we do that, we can actually shut down some of their planeswalkers, as you'll see in some of the games, or some of their big nasty creatures that we're worried about, and give us an extra turn to breathe and to figure out another way to deal with them long term, while simultaneously taking out some of their smaller creatures as well and clearing up some of the board. So Mythos of Vadrok can be really, really good. A lot of times, like I said, it functions as a sweeper. It can remove multiple threats for only one card, and that's really, really important. The Akroan War, on the other hand, is really interesting because we can steal one of their creatures, and then if we have Lukka out, or if we can play Lukka next turn, we can sacrifice the creature that we steal to Lukka to make sure that they don't get it back, and then also bring out one of our big threats. Can be absolutely devastating if done in the right sequence, and I think the Akroan War is really a valuable card up against certain matches. It's also worth noting that if you steal something with the Akroan War and you have one copy of Thassa out, you can blink the thing you steal with the Akroan War and actually keep it forever. The way the Akroan War, or Thassa rather, reads, when that creature comes back into play, it comes back into play on your side, and now the Akroan War has lost sight of it. So the Akroan War doesn't know it's the same creature that you stole, and so it won't give it back. You'll get to keep it forever. So that's really, really interesting. Both Thassa and Lukka give you ways to get around giving back that creature that you steal with the Akroan War. So a lot of times the Akroan War is really great. You grab their creature, you've got a big defender, they have to attack in on page 2, they lose some creatures along the way. It just really mucks up the board for them for a couple turns, which honestly is long enough for you to just really line up some amazing plays in the long term. We're also running 3 copies of Mythos of Illuna, because copying Terror of the Peaks is nuts. You sack something, you get a Terror into play, you copy it with Mythos. The copy will trigger the initial Terror, and you'll do 5 damage to anything you want, but then anything you play after that will now get double triggers because you'll have 2 Terrors in play. Absolutely insane. Not only that, but the Mythos is just an amazing card in general. A lot of times you can do crazy stuff with it, like you play an Akroan War, and then they go really wide to try and get around it, and then you copy your Akroan War to steal their next biggest thing again. Absolutely crazy. You can also use Mythos to deal with a lot of their big threats. A lot of times they'll play something like Ugin, and they'll downtick 5 to get rid of Lukka, and then you can Mythos and copy their Ugin and uptick and kill the Ugin, and then still have your own Ugin, which is insane. Mythos is a really, really good card, and honestly, the Mythos of Illuna is probably one of the better cards in the format right now, and so good at dealing with a lot of the big threats that the opponent will throw at you. I love this card so much. To go along with that theme, we're also running 4 copies of Glasspool Mimic in the mana base. That way we have even more chances to hit with a copy of Terror of the Peaks. But what's really cool and techie about this is we've got the 4 copies of Glasspool Mimic. We've also got 4 copies of Blackbloom Rogue. And both of those cards are things that we can play as land if we need to, but we can also uptick Lukka to grab off of his +1 loyalty ability, and if they get exiled with that ability, we can actually cast them as the creatures because they're 3-drops, but they're not going to muck up our ability to downtick and search for the big threats because they only cost 3. So there's a lot of synergy in these cards. The 4 Blackbloom Rogues in particular, they come down as black mana. The 4 Rogues and just Zagras here are our only black mana spells in the deck. Basically, the first Rogue you get just comes down as a land, no questions asked. And then any more that you draw into or uptick into for the rest of the game are just kind of free cards. You know, you get creatures that can trigger terror. You can uptick into them to generate card advantage. Just really good extra way to kind of deal with paying for Zagras. And that brings us to Zagras, one of our big threats we can search for with Lukka. I shouldn't say search, we don't get to choose, but one of the things we can pull out is our single copy of Zagras. Again, this is legendary, so like Thassa, we don't want more than 1 in, because if we've already got 1 in play and we downtick Lukka and pull out a second one, it feels so bad. But having the 1 to find is super, super techy, because if we pull it out and put it into play when we have a terror in play, now terror has Death Touch from Zagras, which means any creature we play, including the Zagras that just came into play, any damage at all will kill any creature. So now all of a sudden we can play 2 3-drops in 1 turn and kill 2 really big creatures because now terror has Death Touch. Really, really cool plays. And then that Zagras is the only card in the deck that costs black, other than the Rogues that we're using as essentially lands. So the Rogues help if we do draw into the Zagras, we have a way to play it, or if we draw into future Rogues, we can play them as well. It might seem like going a bit much and the black's unnecessary, but honestly, having extra creatures to uptick into with Lukka and having Zagras be able to give all of your terrors Death Touch is just so valuable and so amazing in a deck like this. So I think it's worth the inclusion. Rounding out the top of our curve here, we've got 1 Waker of Waves and 1 Yidaro. And the Yidaro is simply here so that whenever we draw into it, we can cycle it, put it back in the deck, and make sure we always have something to downtick into with Lukka. Again, legendary, we don't want more than 1. We don't want to pull it out when we already have 1 on the field, but having something we can keep cycling back into the deck to make sure we have a target to pull out with Lukka with his downtick is really, really important. So love Yidaro, works great. Waker of Waves is sort of like having a second Yidaro, in that if we get it early, this is another thing we can do on turn 2, where we can discard the Waker by paying 2 mana, and basically scry 2, pick one of those cards, put it into our hand. The other cards go into the graveyard, so it's not exactly scry, but it's something we can do turn 2. It helps flesh out the curve, and it helps us draw into maybe the right lands that we need to move forward with the deck. And I think it's really great. I'd like to find a way to fit more Waker of Waves in here, but for now, getting the math just right on how many big payoff search targets we have for Lukka has been tricky, and I think just 1 for now is working really well. And then we've also got, again, in the mana base, we've got the 4 Glasspool Mimics, the 4 Blackbloom Rogues, and we've got 2 Song-Mad Treachery. Now, Song-Mad Treachery is good because if we get to the late game and we happen to draw it, instead of having a dead land, we can now play Song-Mad Treachery, steal their big threat, sacrifice that big threat to Lukka, or get rid of it with Thassa and bring it back, and now we get to keep it forever. We can do some techie plays with like that with Song-Mad Treachery late game. So I think it's a really interesting inclusion. It's something that when we get early, it's just a land, but it's a way to not have a dead land drop later on. And there's a lot going on in this deck, you know. We've got 4 Raugrin Triomes so that we have a way to generate white, just in case we need to go the extra mile with the Mythos of Vadrok here. And then we've got 3 Fabled Passage, 1 Swamp, 2 Island, 2 Mountains. This gives us an extra way to draw a swamp if we're desperate. We don't want to be sitting with a Zagras in hand unable to cast it. 4 Riverglide and Riverglide Pathway, obviously, because great pathways for this deck. We do have 1 Pillarverge Needleverge Pathway. And this is just so in case we don't need the red mana, we have a 5th way to generate white for the Mythos of Vadrok if we need it. The mana is really, really hard to get just right in this deck because we're basically 2 color, but then splashing for 4. And it gets kind of crazy. But the deck's awesome. Having only 3 drops and higher lets us run Keruga as a companion, which is just added value. You know, we can clone Keruga to draw even more cards with Glasspool Mimic. We can sack Keruga to draw into our big stuff. Just, there's so much this deck can do. It's a control deck at its heart, but it runs tons of creatures. The creature count's at 28. Being able to run these modal lands as creatures here really helps us keep the creature count up high enough for Lukka's uptick to really be worth it. And everything just kind of comes together in a nice, perfect package. And I love the deck. So anyway, let's jump into the games. Cold coffee? No, we need hot coffee. We must hot coffee. I guess this is fine. Super fucking awkward. Play Triome next. We'll play what do I want to do with this? We probably want to bounce the Maze Mind Tome, right? Or cycle Yidaro. I think bouncing the Maze Mind Tome is probably better, so let's actually play this. Just slow him down. Slow down. Slower. Oh. We will fetch an island. Then what will we do? Could Mythos the Maze Mind Tome. I don't really want to do that. I think we pass turn. And at the end of his turn we flash in a Brazen Borrower. Start putting some pressure on him. Sure. Probably gets rid of the Mythos. I would assume. Card is dangerous. Let's start putting some pressure on the opponent so he has to spend his turns dealing with our board rather than messing with our hand or drawing cards off Maze Mind Tome. Bad. Not so bad. Next to combat. Yidaro. I think we're gonna play this for blue. And I think we just put Keruga in our hand. Yeah, that seems fine. That seems fine. We'll swing in with the Borrower. Shark Typhoon. Well, that's not so bad. At least we get to resolve our Lukka through any potential counter spells. Get some creatures. Electromancer's not so bad. Should be able to make a lot of plays next turn. We could Barrin to bounce a thing, then play Ardent Electromancer. Still have a mana up, down tick. Oh, he's gonna return to put our hand.
Come.
Oh, he didn't.
The shadows awaken.
That is pretty darn good for us. Let me think. Play Barrin. Bounce the token. Down tick. On Barrin. To get a terror. And then we will Mythos, copying terror, do 5 to Ashiok.
I love your desperation.
So now he can't downtick Ashiok.
My kin are
He's gonna be in a world of hurt. Alright, kills Lukka.
beneath my spite.
It's okay. And he gives up. Very nice, very nice. I like the idea of the Blackbloom Rogues just being like extra incremental value. Where it's like the first one you get just comes down as a land. It's that 5th land other than 2 red and 2 blue sources. And then from that point on, you can play whatever Blackbloom Rogues you draw into. And it helps you play Zagras if you happen to draw into Zagras, even though you don't want to draw into him. You can uptick on Lukka and hit a Blackbloom Rogue instead of what would be a normal land and get to actually play it off of Lukka. It adds to that count, which I think is important. Alright, we'll keep this. We're going to lead with a Triome. And if they're being super aggressive, we'll play an untapped land and stomp. But if not, we're going to play the Rogue out here. Alright. Flourishing Fox. I do believe we need to stomp that bad boy. Right? No, let's make him replay it. And then just keep Barrining it to his hand. I like that idea. Because next turn we can play Thassa. So we just keep returning it to his hand. He keeps wasting his mana trying to get it to stick. I like it. It matters not, sir. Hello. Barrin is wonderful. We're looking pretty good here. Gonna keep doing it. Some people are silly. We have so much red in our hand that we're gonna play this for red. We're gonna play a Lukka. We're gonna upkick.
You will not see things. Monsters are the key to defending my city.
Alright. Now this is looking pretty good. All of our engines are online. He finally just ditches the Flourishing Fox. I think he's going straight for Zenith Flare. He's got 9. Let's see here. We'll play Terror. Then we'll down tick Barrin. Hit him for 7.
All become stronger.
Play this as a land. Hit him for another 7 because of Thassa. Boom, boom, boom. I want you in my room. They're best buds. The dragon and the fishy. As above, so below. Ballsy. Very ballsy. Yeah, we were just gonna do a ton of damage to him. An absolute ton. No blue's a little worrisome. And everything's kind of expensive. But we could potentially have a turn 4 Mythos of Vadrok, which isn't awful. Might not be enough though. Yeah, we'll mulligan. Sure, we'll keep this. Toss back Lukka. Start with the Triome. If he's super aggressive, we'll play the Pathway so that we can use our Stomp or our Petty Theft. If he isn't, we'll play the Mimic as a land. And it looks like that's the direction we're going. So, land, pass. Another temple. That's fine. Play this for red. Pass turn. He's probably playing Doom Foretold. He is definitely playing Doom Foretold. Which means we need multiple threats on the board as soon as possible. So that we can power through it. Sure. He still has so many cards in his hand. We just need to be as aggressive as possible. We need to not just have one thing on the field when he plays a Doom Foretold. That'll be really bad for us. That's better. Nice. Couldn't have asked for a better play against Doom Foretold. Finally, the luck seems to be swinging our way. We do need land. Pretty desperately. That's fine. We'll just go like this. And make him sack his own Doom Foretold. So next turn we'll sack the Apparition. And then on the final turn, we'll actually sacrifice the war itself before it pops. Oh, we don't even need to. We didn't have anything to play at instant speed. Alright. That's fine. Maybe I should have eaten his ECD. But he's so low, I feel like if we can just get in there, we can close out the game. I think the biggest problem is it gives us really bad plays next turn. Because everything costs 2 more. Should be okay though. Should be okay. What's he gonna take out? Alright, so he wants to play something. He wants to play a creature. If he got rid of Mythos. Or maybe he just knows I can't play Lukka next turn, and if I draw a land, I can play the Mythos. I don't know. Seems a little awkward. Alright, play that as a land. Put Keruga in our hand. Swing for 6. What's he gonna get back? Can't get back anything. We can get back Alirios. Sure. Plays another Doom Foretold. Why am I discarding a card? The beginning of each player's upkeep. Oh, because it's a token. Ah. Swing in for 3. Play Lukka. Get rid of the token. Hopefully get something nasty. So we will draw 2 cards, which is nice. What is he going to do? Omen of the Sea. Does he have Yorion? Wouldn't do a whole lot for him here. He's probably out of Doom Foretold. He's played 2, I believe. Yeah. Nice. Very nice. Alright. Try playing a terror. Try swinging with Keruga. Take out his 2/2. Mauling on it. Interesting. We will uptick. Play this as a land. We will pass the turn. Now he's got to get rid of terror. And then he swings at Lukka and gets it to 2. Probably. So I think we're in okay shape. We need maximum value out of Lukka, so I don't want to sack it here. Although, if I happen to hit a terror, I could just win. No. We'll play it safe. Uptick. Well, that's a lot of fun. I guess we just win. Yeah, we got him. We got him. Alright, James 60338. 3 lands. This should be fine. Should be fine. We're gonna lead with the Glasspool Mimic. We gotta get through that tapped land phase as soon as possible. Then we'll play another tapped land. We'll probably play the pathway for red. Get rid of this robber. And I think we're just gonna do it now. Alright. We will pop this for another red. The blue isn't super important right now. Here's a Glasspool Mimic. I don't think I want to waste the Mythos yet. I think what I'm going to do is play this Rogue. And then dare him to waste his removal on the Rogue. If he plays down another creature, we can 2-for-1 with Mythos next turn. Hello! He's going for it. Wow, 2-for-1 just to get rid of that. That feels good. Alright, we need to make sure we get rid of that thing. Because he just got a Bonecrusher Giant off of it. I think our best bet is just bouncing it for now. That just means he's going to be able to play it later. Alright. We're going to wait until he goes to attacks. We're going to bounce it. We're going to hope he replays it this turn so that we can kill it at sorcery speed on our next turn. That's fine. Petty Theft the Robber. We don't want him getting access to all those cards. It's just too powerful. Play this for blue. We now have 6 mana. A lot of different directions we can go with this. I think we need quantity. I'm gonna play out the giant. Pass the turn. He's used up 2 removal spells, so hopefully he doesn't want to swing with the Raugrin. Did we scare him off? Maybe. It's got some good stuff in there. Mimic, Terror, Giant. Oh, he's going for it. He is going for it. Hello. I would like to declare my blocks. We're going to get rid of your robber. That's fine. That is fine. Play out the Brazen Borrower. Two, three, four. I think we play out the Mythos here and just kill everything. You'll get 1 token. End turn. We'll hold up Petty Theft here. What we want to do is drop Lukka next turn with Brazen Borrower still out, and then turn the Brazen Borrower into something nasty. Okay, we definitely don't want to bounce the Rimrock Knight. We'll just bounce the Satyr. Play Lukka. All of our haste things are gone.
If you will not see things my way,
So we're either going to hit a Terror or the 1 Waker of Waves. Either would be pretty good here. He should pretty much be out of removal. He's used an awful lot of it.
stronger.
Shock, Giant. Well, maybe not. Just 1 Shock and 1 Giant. Alright. Not too bad for us. 2, 3. This ought to be okay. Play this. Terror kills Giant. Down tick. Get rid of the Borrower for a Thassa.
I can do better.
Well, that's pretty good. We'll play... I can't play Brazen Borrower. I guess we swing with Terror. And we'll hold up Petty Theft. Get Terror back into play on tap, so that we have a blocker. If we could have been able to play the other Brazen Borrower, we would have killed the Knight, and then we could have bounced the Borrower and done another 3 damage to the head. which would have been pretty significant. So there's one Terror left in there and one Waker. So he can kill Lukka, but he loses his Robber if he does. Well, at least that's what he thinks. So what do we want to kill? Or what do we want to keep, rather? Lukka or the Terror? I think the Terror.
Next time you won't be so.
Terror is very important here. We'll just fucking destroy him. Good game. That felt nice. So that was Trip Lukka, my absolute favorite deck to run in Standard right now. There's just so many interesting decisions to make. I love it. Anyway, maybe consider subscribing somewhere around there, and maybe check out another deck in a video somewhere around here. And until next time, always make them scoop.